Alright everybody, what's going on? It's Brandon, aka Kiddo Crew, and I'm finally getting around to doing my video about my 10 games I played as Wyrmblade. I'm going to tell you about my experiences with the team, explain why this team is so fearsome in the meta right now, even if it's only for the next month, and the team has quite the number of tricks that you can use to punish your opponent, play safe, get some non-reciprocal damage in. It's quite good. I know a lot of podcasts did an excerpt on them because they've been doing extremely well. Jimmy Kelly's been rocking them around, and he's definitely an all-star player. If you don't know who that is, he's one of the best in the U.S., definitely ranked in the world. He's a great guy. So we'll go over a couple things about the team. I'm going to go over the faction ability as well as the ploys, the operatives, some of the matchups I had in my 10 games, and then I'm going to show off a couple of the tricks that I think you need to know about, whether you're going to go up against a team or that you have a bit in your pocket to play as this team. So the first one is the faction ability, Cult Ambush. It is the Wyrmblade faction ability. This is what gives your agents the 4-up invul, as well as gives them double retain cover or crit saving cover. For the rest of the team, including your agents, it lets them flip from conceal to engage or vice versa. Turning point 1, very powerful ability for your whole team to have just team-wide infiltrate, very nice. In addition to that, when you flip from conceal to engage, you get to reroll all dice results of one number. This has been commonly known as Cult Ambush. Cult rerolls, whatever the case is, better ceaseless. So in this case, I'm hitting on 4s, I can choose 2s as my reroll, and this is chosen after you do your first roll. You choose 2s to reroll those 2s into another hit and crit. That normally doesn't happen that well, but it's just a very clear receptor of how powerful that is. Even if that was a flamer, that's pretty hard to save. It's probably going to do 6 to 8 damage. Pretty nice. Let's go over a little bit of the operatives, and we'll get into the ploys and the nitty-gritty of it. So for the team, you get 2 normal gunners, 1 Weber, Flamer, or Grenade Launcher. One of these 3 needs to sit on the bench. For a lot of my games, I had the Weber sit on the bench just because the damage is not anything to be scared from. The range stun is nice, but it's only against teams that are really affected by stun. I imagine this is great into Mandrakes. I never took it into Mandrakes because the Flamer just feels better to be able to push damage through the invul. But the stun is quite powerful. I didn't go against Gellerpox. That's definitely where you would take it. And then Flamer, Grenade Launcher is everything you've seen before. Hits on 4s and 2s respectively, and then you get to reroll 1 number. So everything's just a little bit more accurate than it should be. On to the Heavy Gunners. Again, you only get 2 out of these 3. You got a Mining Laser, which is 5 attacks, 5/6 AP1. For those of you paying attention, with 5 attacks, AP1 makes it just as powerful as a plasma gun, except there's no hot. With more dice means you get to take more advantage of the rerolls. It's really solid, really scary. This can zap Marines. It's really, really good. The other 2 options are your Heavy Stubber, which comes with Ceaseless. All 3 of these still have Heavy, so if you shoot, you cannot charge with them. But they do come with the... wow, I cannot think of the word right now. The thing that gives them pseudo cumbersome, so they can move a full 6 inches and still fire. That's one of the data slate buffs they got. So they can move as full 6 and still fire. They cannot charge after they fire because they still have the heavy roll. But it gives them so much more mobility and lets them come in from hiding and still fire, since previously they could not. The Heavy Stubber has Ceaseless in addition to the Cult Ambush rerolls, makes it pretty accurate. It's pretty nice into 7 models. I didn't really face any, so I didn't ever take it. I just like the Seismic Cannon. It has range stun, which is amazing all the time, and then can have P1 within 6 inches, so it just becomes pretty scary. And it hits on 3s at short range, so it's one of your more accurate guns that you get. It's pretty sweet. On to these 5 mooks here. You get 4 Brute Adepts and 1 Icon. You just give them all shotguns. You can take autoguns. You don't. You just take the shotguns. It's more accurate. You're pretty much going to be concealed turn 1, doing mission actions anyway. You just take shotguns. Just take the shotguns. The icon bearer, we'll come back to him. He also gets a shotgun. He has an ability to give relentless instead of just cult ambush rerolls. It's really hard to set it up because it's also only to the end of the turning point. And normally your rerolls are good enough that you're just going to like try to bank on it. But yeah, the shotguns are really deadly into a lot of teams and really nice. Here we have the leader. The reason why you have 5 different options is because this is where the most amount of variance comes in your team. Where this is 2 out of 3, this is 2 out of 3. These 5 you take every single time. Your leader, you get 1. He comes with a pistol and a melee weapon. He's sort of a half combatant, and I only say half because he's strictly limited to AP2 or APL2. The entire team is restricted to the APL it shows. They do have access to flash visors, so if you're into Felgore, for example, anyone that can just stun randomly, you're going to want those flash visors because your APL economy is crucial. Even into scouts, depending on where my operatives were going, I would put flash visors on them so that they can do what they need to do turn 1. I know the scouts only stun turn 1, but still, that can be enough to throw off your game plan. Importantly, none of your cult agents can take equipment, which is sort of a downside. It's fine. They're powerhouses in and of their own right. And we will go over them. Again, this is one of those things where you get 2 out of these options. If you're in doubt, just take the Callimorph and the Locust. These 2 are consistently the most well-rounded of the 2. The Locust is an absolute beast in melee. The Callimorph double taps with a ridiculous 5-shot hitting on 2's profile with both P1 and rending. He can spend an APL to give himself hypersense, which changes AP1, the P1 and rending into no cover and indirect, which means he can do that, move 6 inches, and then shoot indirect, which is just really, really good. The sniper does sniper things. Snipers does really well. He is the only model on the team with true heavy, so he can dash only when he goes to shoot, but he can ignore obscurity on his own. He also has a couple different buffs. He's quite lethal. The Sanctus Talon is like the hidden sauce now that he can double strike. That means he can charge, hit with a crit, and hit with a normal, similar to the Felgore one. If he has normals, he has to use one of the normals in addition to the crit. If he has all crits, then he can double strike for a crit. I've seen some people take this guy into Marines and fish for the double crits. He hits on 2s, and you get balanced when you do the Soul Sight Familiar to give yourself the double hit. So more than likely you're going to have a hit and not just all crits. So weirdly enough, if you hit on 3s, it would be better because this way you could just reroll the 3s and 1s, 2s, and then reroll the 3 into a crit or a miss. But with it as it is, it's fine. He's amazing at killing 8-wound models. 9 damage, punches through Harlequins, 9 damage, punches through Mandrakes. They'll get a hit off on you if they spend the CP, but that doesn't matter. 9 damage punches even through new Hearthkin buffs. It doesn't quite punch through Jaegers, but that's not the worst thing in the world. And you probably won't take him into Jaegers, specifically because they half damage. Even then, being able to charge from conceal and then dash afterwards is amazing. He's great. So he's a hidden tech piece I will get into a little bit more later. But when in doubt, you just take the Callimorph and the Locust. I'm going to talk about some of the ploys we have. So hiding is one I'm going to go into in depth. It is a tactical ploy. It's played early on during deployment. It lets you deep strike is what this is. For those of you that play 40k, I'm going to go into extensive talk about this later, so I'm just leave it at that for now. The restrictions are that you have to be within 6 inches of your drop zone. And note, it is within 6 inches, not wholly within. So this would be a legal drop position if you wanted to be there. Also, it has to be someone with a neophyte keyword, so none of your agents can do it. Okay. Onto the rest of your tactical ploys, you have Unquestioning Loyalty, which gives you a pseudo Lookout Sir type ability. It's only for fights, first off. Second off, the operative has to be an engaged, sort of like how the Kroot dogs and the ESS dog can do a counter charge, but they do have to be on engaged to charge. So randomly having a person on engaged that you can use to soak up a fight is tricky and dangerous, because the vast majority of the things you want is to stay on conceal. So it's hard to use. It's usable, but it's super situational. But it can definitely turn the tide. So keep an eye on it. The last two, this one is Think in the Darkness. After they've activated, swap it back to conceal. Each guy can only do this once. That's fine. It's totally okay. If your leader can see the person trying to do this, and it's a neophyte, he can do it for free. So this can work on your agents, but only the neophytes get to get a free ploy from the leader. It's pretty nice. This is part of how you can get some non-reciprocal damage out. Deep strike a heavy weapon to advantage with conceal. Shoot, swap them back to conceal, free damage. Coiled Serpent lets you change one of your hits into a crit after you roll. It's quite amazing. This team has a number of on crit effects. So Reese, this is what his whole channel is about. Can you roll a crit? This whole team wants to roll even a single crit, boost the power of whatever it is that's going on, whether it be P1, stun, rending, whatever the case is. This team wants a crit to cause those things and make life harder for your opponent. Again, your neophytes can use this ploy for free if the leader can see them. Now, the leader's ability is limited to once per turn, so you only get either Coiled Serpent or Slink in the Darkness for free. But either way, it's still really good. And then that covers the tactical ploys. Onto the strategic ploys. This is Crossfire. It gives you an automatic hit after you've already attacked something. This is never useful. This is never useful. It's only shooting, so you don't even get the buff in melee. So it's just not useful. One with Shadows lets you treat light cover as obscuring if you are concealed, which is nice. I'm sure it has an amazing effect when there's a position to use it, but any of the times that I've wanted obscuring from light cover, my opponent has a way to ignore obscuring. Like, there's a lot of teams that ignore obscuring now. Back when this team was released, Hunter Clade could ignore obscuring, and that was quite literally it until Phobos came out. So then you're just like, okay, I just don't do this against Phobos. But that's it. Meticulous Plan. This is one that I'll go over in a little bit more depth of how you can use it. It lets any one of your neophytes, so not your agents, get a mission action or pickup action for free for 0 APL. Really amazing. It means turn 1 you can move, dash, and loot objectives. Move, dash, and get into places your opponent isn't expecting them. On Into the Dark, it lets you open doors for free as you move. And coupled with the Into the Dark change of hiding, means you can move 12 inches and open 2 doors and be looting their objectives, which is an extremely powerful thing that most teams cannot do, especially in a single activation. I think Corsairs can, but they have to invest 2 operatives and CP in a bunch of CP in order to do it, and be set up properly to take advantage. And then they're exposing one of their very valuable elves. So Meticulous Plan is quite amazing. The last one is Writhing Ingress. Meticulous Plan you can only use once per game. The Writhing Ingress you can also only use once per game. You pick a point on the battlefield that with terrain that's less than an inch thick. So I could be like, I'm going to choose this wall over here. And you cut a hole in it for your team forever. Well, let's pick a token that has Nora. So as long as your team goes through an inch, goes through there, travels through from back here through down here, you can treat this terrain as if it's not there. It's pretty sweet. quite nice. It gives you some mobility, especially with a lot of maps that can have like a big L in the middle. A lot of the times the game becomes who can block the door, and for your team to have the ability to just go, I don't care about the door, I make my own door all game long, because once this is used, it sits there all game. It does not go away at the end of the turning point. Pretty nice to do. Okay. What's next on the docket to talk about? Lastly, faction tac ops. These are brutal. I hate all of them, honestly. So I'll go in numerical order. Nowhere Unreachable gives your opponent agency of where you go. It's sort of like recover item. Has to be outside of 6 of the drop zone, which means it's going to be exactly 6 from the drop zone. And you have to end within 1 inch of that token. If you are not careful on some maps, you just can't get there. There's a very small number of maps that can do this. You just literally cannot land your model there. So giving your opponent agency is not fun. I don't like it. Don't do it. Number 2, Perfect Ambush. Perfect Ambush gives you 1 turn to do more damage than your opponent. If you do more damage than your opponent with your agents than your opponent does to your entire army, then you score 2. You only get 1 turn to do this, which is why it's Perfect Ambush. You have to do it perfectly. If you're scoring 2 on Perfect Ambush, that means you're already winning that game, because your opponent gave you a shot that they shouldn't have turn 1 and gave this to you for free. This is a win more, and you will struggle to convince me otherwise. There are a lot of setups and a lot of things that you can do to make Perfect Ambush more viable turn 1, but it is a lot of resources that you're using just for this tac op when you're already using your resources to play the mission in position turn 1 between hiding and meticulous plan. So it just taxes that harder, and I'm not a fan of that. And then lastly, Mark for Assassination. You do an action and say, I'm going to kill this guy. And then you kill that guy and you get a victory point. Well, most of your guys that are going to do this, you don't, first off, so you can't do it in engagement range. Okay, so you can't charge into it. Second off, you have to be within 3 invisible. You have to be really close. You have to move and do this action. Your action economy is almost always turn 1 for meticulous plan. This isn't even a mission action, so you would not be able to do this for free anyway, at least according to this. So it is atrocious. This is like call your shot assassination with extra steps. Your action economy is okay turn 1, and it sets you up to move into the rest of the turns pretty well. But if you have to tax that action economy again on top of that in order to try to score this, it can become really difficult really fast. I don't like Mark for Assassination at all. You do have access to both Infiltrate and Seek and Destroy. These are some of the more powerful secondaries in the game. Seek and Destroy, anyone who knows me knows that I seek and destroy all the time. Your mobility means that you can get to places that people aren't usually expecting you to. A big change from this team from other teams with Seek and Destroy is that Robin Ransack is not nearly the auto-include that it is with a lot of other teams, since your melee threats boil down to your Locust, your Leader, and your Talon if you take him. Those are your vast majority of your melee threats. So unless you're into Vet Guard or someone that can't melee that well, Robin Ransack doesn't feel so great. Executioner, Eliminate Guards, and even Assassinate Target. You are very mobile. You get pretty deep pretty fast. Route is harder, but you can do it. Shotguns do this actually surprisingly well into 5-up armor save teams. Eliminate Guards is pretty solid into almost all the teams. Headhunter and Assassinate into elites. And if you need it, Executioner, you can score it with people popping back to conceal. And once you score 2, you're done and out with it. So your Mining Laser is a good target for this. Even your Killer Morph and things of that nature, your Locusts are good targets for Executioner. So I don't like Robin Rancic with this team because your melee is very limited in how many operatives you have with it. I'm not going to lie, I suck with Infiltrate. This is probably one of my worst archetypes that I have access to with any of my teams because I don't like any of it. Gather Surveillance can be rough. Install Device is just not a thing. Implant, Subversive Control, Seize Defenses are probably three of your better ones. Stock Target is nice in idea, but what ends up happening because you have to call who is stalking a guy, you either kill that guy or you are like too deep. So I don't know. I prefer Gather Surveillance if I'm gonna do that. Over those two, I should say. So that's for the TAC Ops. So I'm gonna go over some of my matchups, and then I'll talk about the tricks that we got going on. So my game one was into Blooded. They have a lot of lethal threats. So do you, and you don't have that many lethal threats into just everyone. You have a lot of lethal threats into 5-up armor saves, which is what Blooded have across the board for the most part. They commonly will bring 13 operatives against you because you have 7 wound operatives. So the Ogren and Enforcer are very scary threats. They still die to shotguns. Maybe not in one go, but 2 shotguns can definitely put down the Ogren. You hit reliably, they don't affect your rules. You play the mission better. So you have agency to pressure them. If you go 3-3 primary, turn 1, Blooded are in an amazing spot. Make sure you go 4-2. Put that pressure on, force them to try to go after your mooks and take them out. Game 2 is in the Mandrakes, and you need to bring a Spotlight or 2 for this matchup to negate the obscurity, which is really nice. You have Spotlights that when you're within 6 invisible, you turn off obscurity for people. Shuts off their perma obscurity until that thing gets nerfed. And that's they hate shotguns, so this team plays the mission better. Don't give them 3 APL, walk up, shotgun that guy in the face, and you win the game. Game 3 into Felgor. This matchup can get real bad on ITD. There's not a lot that stops them from yeeting in a goat, having him kill a thing, and then charge another thing and kill another thing. Or worse yet, double charge and get double kills and then dash into another guy, a third guy. It can get really rough really fast. Your Locust and your leader are going to be MVPs. This is one of the matchups that I would take the Lethal 5 Auto Pistol. I think it's the only matchup where I would take the Lethal 5 Auto Pistol, since it gives you an avenue to shoot the goats to death after they frenzied. You can just walk up and pump out a bunch of crits at them and be like, good luck saving a bunch of crits. That's the way I'm looking at that, really. Game 4 was in the Novitiates, and Novitiates hate being out-activated. On open, you can cost them a ton of faith points by hiding and shooting, swapping back to conceal, hiding and shooting, and then just dashing off of vantage points if you need to so that you're safe. On Into the Dark, they have really limited tricks to stop you from going up in primary. Abuse that. If they want to contest you in primary, they have to have an amazingly godly setup and be ready for your tricks in position. I'll talk about some of those tricks later on, but I think it's a heavily Wyrmblade favored matchup. Game 5 in the Higher Tech Circle. This game convinced me that I am not great at Tech Ops. Not for Infiltrate. I tried them on this match, and it completely threw me off from what my normal game plan is. I'm sure that there's a game plan and game style that this is great with. I don't know it. It's not my deal. I struggle with it immensely. So take what you're good at. This is definitely a winnable matchup. This was not me getting outclassed by any means. This was me not knowing the game plan. So I need some Infiltrate practice, if I'm being honest. Game 6 into Brood Brothers was my only other loss with this team. This was such a close game. This was into a buddy of mine I've known online for a long time. Almost pulled out a tie. Came down to like a 1 or 2 point loss at the end of it. It was really close. Brood Brothers are sort of the new hotness, and I think need a little bit of a tone down. they're just overperforming across the board. I don't think they're quite the S tier that everyone makes them out to be. They do have some weaknesses. They do have a lot of great matchups, and they have a lot of agency over you. They have probably some of the highest Turning Point 1 agency in the game, which is sort of weird that Wyrmblade would get outclassed in that way. But it's nothing that you can't handle. It almost comes down to skill matchup, so we'll see how that turns out if either of these teams get touched. Game 7 was in the hand of the Archon, and you run circles around this team in mission play. You don't really have a reason to expose and let them get their pain tokens going, so don't. Use obscurity, use conceal, just stay concealed, play the mission, and like they have to rely on getting a kill with their indirect bird from conceal. And you're like, okay, cool. That thing doesn't even kill 7 operatives in a single go. So unless they roll obscenely hot, I guess. I don't know. It's really a good matchup. Again, elves hate shotguns. The shotguns do great damage. And because it's 3-3, when 3 go through, they need to make those field up hands or they just die. Game 8 was in the Hermkin Jaegers. They have a half damage play, which affects, like, solidly affects your mining laser, brings the normal hits from 5 down to 3, but then if a normal hit goes through, it does 8 damage anyway, so you don't care. And then the rest of your guns are all 3-3 or 3-4, so it barely does anything. It stops 1 to 2 damage. It's not like it's cutting a power sword down by 3 damage or 4 damage or anything like that. A lot of your breakpoints just don't care about their damage reduction. You shoot extremely accurately, and you play the mission way, 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 way better. Your agents all double retain cover, so that just stops a lot of their shotgun shooting because they hit on 3s, not 2s. I don't know. It just feels really one-sided. And yeah, if everything goes well, they can just shotgun things down because they also have shotguns, and you don't like shotguns either. But you can just charge them and play the mission and just be annoying. They can't boost APL when they're in combat, so that team struggles real hard. Especially between the hiding tricks and secure and loot and anything like that, you just outperform that team in so many ways. Game 9 was in the Pathfinders. You get 2 grenades, you get a frag grenade and a blasting charge, which scare the crap out of Pathfinders. You shoot better with them without support because of cold ambush and not needing marker lights or bonded or anything of that nature. Especially now that they've had recon sweep nerfed, you're not really scared of them alpha striking you nearly as hard as before. Or if they do, they're recon in the scouting step, and it's very telegraphed of what they're doing. And you have tons of time to spread out because you have GA2 everywhere. So I think this is definitely a Wyrmblade favorite matchup as well. Game 10 was into Mandrakes, and again, this Mandrakes hate shotguns. The Locust is insanely tough. It just takes them, if they only roll 1 crit, you're like, cool, I block it, and now you can't kill me. The Locust just kills on their turn. It's really ridiculous. It's great. So now let's go into some of the tricks. So I'm going to go with some of the boring tricks, and then I'm going to go with some of the trickier tricks that actually get me excited and make me go, oh man, that's real cool. So the first trick that I'm going to go over is really standard. Your leader, you have him on conceal turn 1, and you put a guy with a gun in hiding. Doesn't matter if it's the mining laser or the grenade launcher. It doesn't matter. And this map is from, I think this is the Alexa map. So hiding stipulates that when you deep strike in, you have to be within 6 inches of your drop zone. Well, your drop zone is infinitely tall, which means that no matter where a vantage point is, you can drop in within 6 inches, not wholly within, just within, and shoot on this map 1, 2 objectives, and then if your opponent tries to stage someone here, you can shoot them. If your opponent tries to put someone back here and obscured, you can just drop here and get that shot through the cubby and blast people. It's really annoying. And then if your leader can see them, This takes a little bit of planning. If your leader can see them, you just go, cool. When they drop in, they shoot, and then they go to conceal. For free. So save your CP. You're going to go down to 2 turn 1. This is the most boring because it's just punishes people for bad deployment or bad deployment zones. And this alone can swing the game. One of the other things you can do, it's very common where one of your Brood Adepts will go into Deep Strike with one of your gunners. Let's grab a gunner. And you give this guy a blasting charge, so he has a grenade. And on this map, grenades are 6 inches in range, so he can drop within 6 inches of the drop zone. So I can drop there, grenade anything that's on this point that isn't in this specific cubby. I can drop here, grenade this point. I can drop here. In fact, I can drop here and grenade both of these points. Just anything that's on that point, I can grenade it. And then if they go over here, trying to be safe of it, cool. I just drop over here. And now I grenade you from there. This mobility is amazingly useful. Something that elves do is they move up, teleport up, and then move dash from that new forward location. This is more flexible than that. And even though this is approach, I hate approach, and all the objectives are in the middle, even if you go to a different diagonal deployment, recall this, place this, again, you can see where the 6-inch drop of this operative covers that objective, covers that objective, covers your home objective, and covers this objective in the corner, again, minus anything pretty much that's back behind this corner, right? Like, it is just so far, which means that they can't move here, here, or here. They can't move onto 4 of the objectives without eating a grenade. So unless they last activate it, and they out-activate you, they're going to take some damage. And again, if you do it from there, you just have visibility of wherever your leader activated. Say he activated and he's here, he can see him. Just need to see a little bit of him. After you come in, throw the grenade, and then it goes away, swap back to conceal. Pretty nifty. Okay. This also applies for getting a free crit. If you're going to do the Alpha Strike, you might as well get a free crit out of it. It's one or the other. So if you're last activating and you're going to activate into safety, you're just going to leave a person on engage, go for the crit. If you're going back to conceal, go for the Slink in the Darkness. It's really powerful. That's one of the most boring ways to use it. The most unique way, in my opinion, is you use the Neophyte Icon Bearer. I've done this in a number of games that were either secure or capture, where next to the last activation, he will drop in, again, within 6 inches, not wholly within, just within 6. Boop, that's all it takes. And then he can dash. If you have Meticulous Plan Up for free mission actions, if they only have 2 APL on the point, you can then take that point for yourself. If it's capture and they are 3 APL, then you just contest that point and they don't score it. Either way, it gives you primary up and is just so powerful and useful. It is, cannot recommend enough how useful this Icon Bearer has been in so many games, and it just perpetuates in into the dark. On open board, Sanctus Town is pretty straightforward. After you open up a spot with Writhing Ingress, he can charge through. After he charges through, he can then just dash 3 inches to get him into weird spots. Pretty dang amazing. The sniper can definitely find positions. If you have them recon forward, they have a much better chance of getting into a position where they can do a thing effectively without needing too much support. The Kellamorph double shoots and the Locust double fights, which is pretty self-explanatory why they're so powerful. Locust can also ping pong after he fights, and some of the neat tricks with that I will show you in just a moment. So the open tricks are pretty simple. You can deep strike in the guns to even here, and suddenly this gun can shoot this part of the board. And then if someone tries to pop out over here, you just shoot them there. It's quite quite good. So from here, we're going to go on into the dark and talk about a couple other unique setups that come into play more often than not. Let's see how this works. Ooh, that's a unique. It's a unique way for terrain to stick around. All right. Sure, there's a piece in there. Yep, that I missed. Oop. Okay. So for this, writhing ingress is practically useless unless there's a barricade you want to do. But we'll get into that in just a second. So here's the fun trick plays that I love doing with both the Locust and the Talon. There's a lot of times where you'll be fighting over a room. There's maybe not this many rooms, and your opponent will have people in the room. And the big cool, we have our defensive guy there, our guy posturing here, and then I'm going to come up and open the door with my barricaded guy back here. Okay, and they're staged to open the door with this guy. This guy's already gone. This guy's already gone. Okay. If you know they need to come through this door, you know they need to, and it's going to happen. Either one of these operatives are amazing for this. Go engaged. Move to the door. Just go on guard. Just go there. You go on guard. Okay, because what happens is as soon as they open this door, it triggers the on guard, so you fight. There's very little in the game that the Locust just doesn't kill. Just flat out. There's very little in the game. There's a number of teams that have a guy, but even then, Locust is real good at it. So once he fights and kills, he can then dash 3 inches at someone. So if there's someone who's mispositioned even a little bit, this guy's just out of range this time, suddenly you're in the room, and you've already activated. So when they planned on opening the door to shoot you, use this guy as a sacrifice, now they can't shoot you. This happens a lot. This situation where you go on guard and you suddenly charge into the room after the fight, because it's after every single fight. You do a 3-inch charge after every single fight. It's really good, as long as it's not still in engagement range. And then my favorite trick in the Mandrakes is if I know they need to go into this room, I know they need to open the door, I'll activate the Talon. Excuse me. Give himself his buff against the guy I know he's going to open the door with, and then go on guard. Because what happens is this buff that he gives himself lasts to the end of the turn. So the second they open the door, you get to fight. He's 4 dice. You get balanced against your 1 target that you're going for. 4 dice on 2s. With balanced. Cool. So I have 2 hits and 2 crits. So then you do 9 damage to whoever that is. Neat. So that guy's dead. Now, after this guy's dead, you'd be in a concerned spot. And let's say this guy's back here in the corner, you can't dash at him. That's fine. He's about to shoot you with this guy because he hasn't gone yet. Cool. I'm going to make a 3-inch dash after the combat. 1, 2, 3. So now instead of being like within charge range, they have to come out in a weird angle and shoot you. And you're pretty much obscured for anyone that isn't like in this corner. This goes both ways, where especially on capture missions, if they don't have anyone else to go, you can position, yep, go ahead and open the door after you do the fight, you dash in, not in combat, contest objectives. It's amazing, because you get to double strike. The double strike lasts till the end of the turn. I will say that the buffs that you give yourself that last to the end of the turn do feel bad when you lose initiative the next turn. A very clear example is this Locust. The Locust has his Quicksilver Strike, so there's a lot of times where you're like, okay, cool, I'm going to move into this room, and anyone that moves is going to get hit. Like if you'll go into this room, I'm going to hit you. And you're like, cool, I don't move, I just sit there. And then at the end of the next turn, everyone goes to activate, and your buff goes away. So now they can just shoot you, charge you, whatever they want to do. Same thing with the Talon. If you do this to guard a door, and they just don't come through that door, now you are sitting in a dangerous position. Because if they have 3 APL, come up, open this door, either fight or shoot you, depending on what they're trying to do with their operatives, whatever they're best at. So it's a risky play, but with great risk comes great reward, or great responsibility with great power, something along those lines. Spider-Man's a thing. Yeah. So one more thing about, I'm going to double back on going to hiding, because hiding and into the dark is really where a lot of your mission play starts to stand out to an obnoxious extent. So we're going to remove this terrain. We're going to go to one of the more common ones, a little more defensible like this. Okay. So with this map and with the way hiding works, move stuff out of the way. You use hiding. Put your neophytes here. You have your barricade. Everyone starts on engage, on conceal. So you have your barricades to protect your zones, whatever the case is. Okay. Because hiding, you get 2 people. Means that one neophyte. Let's use normal neophytes. One neophyte brood adept can move 6 inches and open a door. So you can just go 6 inches. Can't open this door this with hiding from here. That's okay. You don't care. From this side, you move 6 inches. Cool. Now, on this map, this is the only one you can threaten. So from here, you don't even need to come up to hiding with this guy. You can just move up to here if you want. And then next turn move out and loot this objective. But with 3 mission actions, this guy can then move 1 inch, open the door for free, finish his movement, probably use your opponent's barricade against them, and loot this point or secure this point, whatever the case is. There's a lot of maps where they have one or both side objectives that are vulnerable. In fact, you could probably do this both in the middle, now that I'm looking at this map. Move 6. Yep, because then you can just move 6 inches. So if this is loot, you could literally just loot them like this. And now, unless they have a similar ability to get here, you can 4-1 them, which is kind of obnoxious. You go up 4-1, primary turn 1, there's so much pressure for your opponent to try to bring that back. Because it's a 3-point lead. That is half your tac ops. If you only score 1 on each of your tac ops, now you're even. That's how big of a lead that is. That's insane. That is hard to come back from. And Wyrmblade are one of the few teams that can do this effectively and consistently. There's a lot of maps that you can do this to, especially on Into the Dark. There's a lot of maps that you can pull off this. Loot and secure. Loot and or secure means that one of these two are probably your icon. In fact, in one of my Novitiates games, I used my icon to steal an objective. And because of his positioning, his choice was either to give me the objective or put someone else on the objective who's on conceal but would not have cover, which means they would be out in the open, and in order to protect them, they would have to burn through faith dice, while I have 3 full-range guns shooting at them. They decided to keep their faith points, let me go up 4-2, and it was hard for them to come back from that position. It was very polarizing, and that was the first game that I realized that, even if these two operatives can't swap their orders turn 1, per the hiding rules, being able to play the mission to this extent is quite brutal. Say your opponent's ready to, this is secure, and your opponent's ready to take this one back, so you only really want to throw this guy away, that's fine. Because you don't need to dedicate this Brood Adept. The 2-point swing is usually a really solid start, especially on Into the Dark where people are not used to it. So, and there are teams that just don't have a counter to this. Blooded, my favorite team, don't have a counter to this. They can recon dash one person forward, which means both these points are susceptible to that. That's brutal. That's crazy. There's a lot of teams that they just don't have any counterplay to this at all. So being aware of it is very important. And like I said, using the icon, because the icon has the neophyte keyword as well, he can move 6, and now he counts as 3 APL on this objective. So you have to like remove him in order to take this back next turn. You have to. Is he hard to kill? No. But how many on-engage operatives are you going to have that can shoot this guy right here? And not have a mining laser walk 6 inches to counter shoot. Not have a killer morph that can move, if you recon dashed him to over here, who could move to here and shoot just as effectively, if not more effectively, than any of your other weapons. It's a lot of forward pressure. And the only ones that do this better are Brood Brothers, but they only do it better with killing, not with mission play. And because of how their forward movement is, it's all just dashes. It is not nearly as effective on Into the Dark. Not even close. Your free mission actions coupled with the free movement is huge. Take advantage of it. Punish. It's really, really good. This team is a lot of fun to play, too. This is one of the hiding tricks I was talking about. Hiding is so powerful. Oh, I did not talk about the equipment. So you have Frag Grenade and Blast and Charge. Blast and Charge is just a bolter with, it's 3-4, Blast 1. So on Into the Dark, it gains lethal 5. Sort of neat. It's just slightly better than a shotgun. No big deal. Flash Visor, ignore APL modifiers. Here's the Spotlight that you take against Mandrakes, and then anyone else that's going to try to really abuse Obscurity. You have to get real close to them to use it, so it's not quite as good in Deflect Phobos and teams that try to use Obscurity like that. The Cult Icon lets you upgrade a save into a crit save. Like, you're saving on 5s, so half your saves are going to be a crit save anyway, and this cannot go on your agents. So, like, why? I don't know. This feels like useless to me. The other 2 pieces of equipment are climbing ropes, which are useful in a lot of missions, and then knives. Unlike blooded knives, these knives give you +1 attack. So you go 4 attacks, 2-3 damage still, hitting on 4s. And if you're taking the implant, you take knives. The difference between having 4 attacks trying to hit, and 3 attacks trying to hit is night and day. So often will you get parried out when you have 3 attacks. 3 attacks, 1 hits, a lot of the time. A disturbing amount of the time. 4 attacks, hitting on 4s, usually you get 2 hits, sometimes more. That's how you make sure you get your implant before you die into teams that can really put the pain on in melee. So that would be one of my very strong suggestions there. There's an entire list of damage output, damage breakpoints, where you want to take the Sanctus Talon. The TLDR is pretty much just not, like, just all the take him into all the elves. He kills all the elves just fine. Don't take him into all of the dwarves. Take him into Hearthkin is fine, not all of the dwarves. And then Hand of the Archon can get a little spicy because they're Philoppanes. And then don't take him into melee matchups other than that, really. The lethal 4 might sound really good into, like, Felgor, but when you remember you could just Coiled Serpent anyone, like, would you rather force that, or would you rather just punch it with a Neophyte and be like 1 CP, that guy's dead? Right? So, especially when a lot of your damage safely with the Kellamorph, defensively with the Locusts, I just think it's needed. I think you need those 2 to really pump out. Because the Locust can lethal 5 kill, charge again, lethal 5 kill, charge again. And pre-parry means that he's just obnoxiously good. So that's where I stand on that, at least. Yeah, of the Cult Agents, the Sniper does sniper things. Kellamorph is the least interesting, although he is one of the more powerful. The Sanctus Talon has some tricks, and the Locust is just amazing. He has Quicksilver Strike, which means the first time an enemy moves within 3, he can charge and fight them. Now it's a full charge, so if you do this on Conceal, and someone moves within 3 of you to try to shoot you, you can do a full charge. So suddenly you're like, okay, cool, 1, 3 makes it 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and now after you do this fight, if they had an enemy operative on the other half of this door, suddenly you charge again. 3, nope, can't make it. Cool. And now you're in combat over here with someone that's already activated. So most times you're safe from shooting. It's quite powerful. It's quite amazing. So don't take that extra movement for granted. I take Khorne Legionnaires all the time because being able to ping pong with the damage is just amazing. I love it, and it provides so much more mission play than people expect. And being able to play the mission and kill is where the sweet sauce is. When you can do both, play the mission and kill, that's where the money's at. Kasrkin are really good at shooting. They struggle to shoot and play the mission. If you use this team correctly, you get to shoot really well, you get to fight pretty well, and you get to play the mission astoundingly well. This team has a lot of power in it, and you just got to search for where it is to really get the juice out of it. It's quite amazing. I knew I was going to rant at some point. Sorry. I get yelled at for not scripting these. This is scripted, I promise, and I knew I was going to rant, so I just let it. It's fine. This team's a lot of fun to play, and a lot of fun to play against. At one point, this team was a gacha team, where if you didn't know all their tricks, they just gotcha on what they can do. And then if you knew their tricks, you just beat them every single time. With the power of the team as it is right now, they're not just a gacha team. They are very, very good and very reliable. They still have their weaknesses. They don't like a bunch of people that are going to try to get up in their face and melee them. They don't have a way to fall back for less. They also don't have a comm, so once they're in melee, they're stuck or they are fighting you. They don't have a way to get out of melee outside of dying. So if you want to really mess with them, fight them, bring them down to like a touch, and then leave them alive. They can't shoot into combat like Blooded can, or Exaction, or Pathfinders, name teams that can do it. If you get into melee and bring them down, bring them close to dying in melee, they will struggle to dig you out. Like if you get charges turn 1 and don't get kills, that's fine. Because then you can kill and then charge again, kill, charge again, kill, charge again. It's sort of backwards of what you're used to. You're used to charging and killing and moving on with life. But if you get a couple people that can charge really early on, you can do some sick things with this team. You just make people cry that they can't play the game as well. Yeah, it's really good. The first time I played this team in person, that's what the Ogren did. He got a turn 1 charge. He just sat there in melee. And then turn 2, he killed that guy and charged someone else. Turn 3, he killed that guy and then charged the 2-wound Kellermorph, killed him, and then was in melee with someone else. You do that on 2 fronts against this team, and they're going to buckle super fast. You'll see. Beware the locusts. Keep eyes on the leader. That's how you do it. So I ended up going 8-2 with this team. My only losses being in the Higher Tech Circle and that Brood Brothers match. This team was so much fun. I was really glad that this team got picked. A lot of the teams that get picked doing this process, by the way, this kid's voted on, the teams I play. A lot of teams that end up getting voted on have questionable power levels. For example, Scouts is one of the teams I was forced to play with this process. And that was before their recent data slate buffs. So I played 10 games of Scouts with 9 Scouts doing 3-5 damage on their knives instead of 4-6. It's a very big breakpoint difference. It makes a big difference, just across the board. I had so much more fun with these games. They're sort of akin to Blooded a little bit. Different enough that they have a very very quirky playstyle. And I'm really glad they haven't Sing and Destroy, because I was struggling to do any of the other tech ops. It just breaks from my normal game plan. I think that's where I struggle with it. But yeah, like I said, these get voted on. I had a lot of fun with these ones. And the next team that I'm going to be playing is Inquisition. This was almost completely determined by my Patreon Almost all of the public votes were for other teams, and then all except one Patreon vote was for Inquisition. So Inquisition took it as they get bonus votes. I'm going to be working with a completely open roster with that. They do have a 30-person limit on the roster restriction, which is different. But because there's so many options, that team has the Warp Coven problem 100%. I used to call this the Magnus problem, but a lot of people don't play 40k. Magnus, back in 9th edition, had access to 13 spells. No, he had access to 19 spells? Something ridiculous. But he only got to cast 3. And you had to choose the best ones, and he was your best caster. So, you have so many options. You got to figure out what's the right option. You could literally play Inquisition for 100 games and still not know what the right auxiliary matchup is into a team. So I expect I'm going to be taking a lot of Breachers. I expect to take Exaction at least a couple times, and we will see where it goes from there. I'm probably going to be starting that coming up pretty soon. I don't know if I want to start it before the new edition, as the new edition's already been announced for the end of next month. Maybe. I'll see how I feel about it. I'm sorry this took so long to come out. I've been done with Wyrmblade for a minute. I've been back into practicing my Blooded, as they're probably going to be one of the main teams I'm taking around to tournaments. That is who I will be bringing to AVTT with my teammates. We'll see how that goes. If you're wondering who I'm going to be playing with, I'm going to be wearing a lot of purple. For those of you that know, you'll know about who I'll be playing with. But there's some details in there that I'm not sure I want to just spout out there because it's not my information to give. So we'll see. We'll see how that goes. Lastly, I want to thank anyone and everyone that's been enjoying my bat reps. These teams get voted on. So if you want to see a team or want to put a team up for vote, DM me. The most recent addition was Phobos got added to the list of teams that people want to see me play. They only got the 1 vote, which was not nearly enough. Inquisition ended up winning with 13 or 14 votes, compared to the next runner-up at 9 votes. So let me know what you want to see. I will play them. I know that people are asking me if I want to play Scouts again. I probably won't repeat a team until it's a new edition. I started this thing with Warp Coven. These do take a lot of time, especially with work and home life being what they are. It's been more and more sparingly that I'm even able to time and do these. So feel free to comment and like, and hit me up anytime about any questions I have. When I see it, I will respond. And that's what I got. Really hope you enjoyed the synopsis of the team. And so let me do a quick review of some of the power plays that this team has. I'm really hoping I didn't miss anything because I did sort of jump around on my script here. It's alright. I'm sure someone will yell at me about something. Hope you enjoyed. On to the next one.